Let's talk about driverless cars. It's something we've spoken about a great deal, and whether it's coming down the track, literally down the track. Driverless cars could be delivering groceries and transporting passengers on Britain's roads within 4 years. This is under plans being considered by the government. Now, the Department for Transport has drawn up plans for laws that would allow autonomous vehicles without safety drivers in the front seat, according to industry sources. This is a much delayed piece of legislation, the much delayed future of transport laws, which are unlikely to pass before the next election in their current form. But it's believed that by passing legislation before an election could mean driverless cars could be operating commercial services by 2027. Obviously, regulation has got to go through consultations and testing processes. Technology companies are very unhappy about what's been going on. They've been voicing frustration at delays to laws that would allow them to run commercial driverless services, warning they could move testing abroad as a result. And they say this is hitting investor confidence. Joining me now, Howard Cox, founder of Fair Fuel. Good afternoon, Howard.
Hello, David. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I imagine you don't like this at all because you're a bit of a petrol head.
I thought you'd say that. I'm really excited by all technology. Believe it or not, electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles and driverless cars. I've even been in a driverless car. And I tell you what, my experience was surreal.
So where was this?
It was actually on a track in you know, it wasn't on the main roads or anything like that. It was just on you know, a bit like a Top Gear track type thing. And I was sitting with a guy on the back seat, and he said, "No, don't worry about it." He had a laptop with him, so he could actually press a magic button to help out. But I was very apprehensive. We got up to about 45, 50 mile an hour. Etc. And we were heading towards bollards and various things he was showing, and it showed how it avoided the bollard, how it slowed down. But I said to him, what happens if you've got a dog on one side and you've got a baby on the other side? Which one does it hit? You know, those are the sorts of things, I'm afraid, artificial intelligence, David, can't beat human intelligence, and that's the situation with this. It will come to us, but we've got very congested roads over here, and at the moment in time, I think 4 years is too soon. I think we should be looking about 10 years.
Well, you say that, but also all the studies show that actually if you have artificial intelligence running these cars, then you can actually have cars closer together, and they can also then sort of control the flow of traffic, so reducing traffic jams.
No, I understand that. I'm all for controlling the road, as you know very well. That's what we've got to do, especially here in London. The thing that I'm talking about is actually I'm still nervous about the safety aspect of this. Well, and you know the whole you see in California, I think it was San Francisco. One actually broke down, didn't work, and it held up an ambulance, and someone died as a result.
Well, that's right. Driverless cars in San Francisco led to a host of failures, including collisions with emergency vehicles, traffic jams, and calls for the public deployment of the technology to be paused. That being said, there was a 3-year trial of driverless cars by Nissan. That ended in February of this year. It said vehicles could operate safely in an inner-city environment after no crashes were recorded in 1,600 miles of testing. Now, Ford has been given the green light to roll out its Blue Cruise hands-free system for its electric cars, and that then all that does, though, is it adjusts speed, steers around corners and brakes. And, of course, that is only the beginning of a much longer journey, isn't it?
Absolutely right. And you just said 1,600 miles. That doesn't touch the sides in terms of testing, does it?
No.
And I mean, my car has, I'm sure you've got lane control, radar sensors, cameras everywhere to prevent collisions. There's no way I could put my foot down and hit the car in front of me. My car won't allow me to do that. Well, there's a lot of good stuff here, but we've got to bring both things together, human control with artificial intelligence. But I still think we're a long way away from that.
Well, so there are a number of companies, and these are in the States, but Waymo, which says it's actually conducted far bigger trials. So they've done 20 million miles of real-world testing. They've driven in simulators something like 20 billion miles as a result. Now, as we know, the US is far, far ahead of us, but they've now got deliveries by these driverless cars. I have to say, I have a rather posh car that is capable of autonomous driving. Now, obviously, the legislation doesn't allow me to do that at the moment. Even with what we're allowed to do at the moment, I put the car into automatic mode. Now, occasionally, it gets very confused and it tries to take me off this junction when I don't want to go on that junction.
Well, that's the point, you see. We're in the hands of a microchip. And those are the sorts of things we've got to understand. And my concern is that safety aspect still. I keep coming back to that. I think this technology, we're going to develop it. It's going to get better and better. But I'm sorry, I'm not convinced yet. At the moment in time, I still think a human is in control of a vehicle more so than a computer. And I've got experience of that too, because you're quite right. It takes me off the wrong junction, etc. All those sorts of things. I drive a hybrid, and it has a similar sort of thing as what you've got, David. And to cut a long story short, I'm not happy yet. Right.
It's interesting, isn't it, the role of technology here, and I'm wondering whether you're being a bit of a dinosaur about this, in that obviously we're used to using apps like Uber, for example, to order taxis and particularly in metropolitan areas. And of course, a lot of this technology is now in place. You can already order a car, you already get automatically billed. So the next phase surely is for a driverless car to arrive, you get in it, you go to your destination, the whole thing is handled seamlessly. We aren't that far away, are we, in cities?
I haven't seen anything. I'm yet to be convinced. Now, I'm asked because of my motoring sort of campaigning stuff, I'm asked to test things, and I've yet to be convinced. I'm still not convinced that decision-making process, you're going along the road at 20 mile an hour, for example, now 20 mile an hour zones in cities, you're going and suddenly a dog runs out right in front of you, that car can react that quick enough to avoid it, or maybe make a decision, if I do avoid it, I'm going to hit the person on the pavement. Those are the sorts. That's all I'm saying. That's not being a dinosaur, David. That's just being common sense.
Well, it's interesting with my car because they're all learning. So my particular car, every car feeds back to a central control, so they learn the whole time. And I've noticed, particularly on country roads, it's much happier now knowing more about that geography than it did to begin with. But obviously this is very much a learning curve in terms of where it goes from here. One of the plus sides, I think, from this will be for elderly people who are isolated in the country, who can't drive. Maybe they've got visual problems, for example. But imagine if they're able then to just order a driverless car, it arrives, picks them up, takes them shopping, allows them to have social interaction. That has to be a good thing.
Of course it is. Again, please, Dave, you might be misreading me. I'm all for this technology. But the thing is, I've just had a very nice lunch with your colleague Ian Collins.
What?
Yes, I did. And I thought to myself, I can't drink because I'm driving. So we drank Diet Coke between us. And so, therefore, if we had a driverless car, I could have had about 5 pints of Guinness, couldn't I?
Yeah, well, there is that, of course. And then there's the safety aspect of that, actually, if you've got a driverless car, then people can have a drink and get home safely.
I know that, but apparently that won't be in legislation. You still can't be in charge of a car. You're still in charge of that car. And if you have to make some decision like pressing a big red button to stop the car all of a sudden like that, you've got to be sober to do it.
Well, you're going to end up with a car where there are no controls at all apart from one big red button.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Probably like that.
Yeah, exactly. Very good to talk to you, Howard. By the way, where was my invitation for lunch? But that's a whole nother point. Howard Cox there, founder of Fair Fuel UK there.